I think we can get started. I'm a little bit past 12. So for those of you on the line, welcome and thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us. My name is Jim Williams. I'm the CMO of Uptempo, and I'm joined by my friends and colleagues, Frank Muzzi, head of customer success, and Bruce Bryan, who is the head of our global solutions engineering. Today, we're going to be talking about how to accelerate marketing with Uptempo, which is a number of component parts. Actually, we'll talk about our approach to the market. We'll talk a little bit about how we drive real value and how we want to measure that. And then we'll talk about how we enable you through the customer success and service delivery model that we've engineered. This will be recorded, of course, and we'll send out recordings so you can share it with your friends and family afterwards. If you have any questions, I encourage you to use the Q&A feature of Zoom, and we'll get to those at the end of the presentation, probably not during the presentation. I don't think I missed anything on my housekeeping there, so I will go ahead and just get started today. So why are we talking about accelerating marketing with Uptempo on this webinar? Frankly, given the current economic climate and what's happening, the realities today of the times we're in, a lot of people aren't thinking about how to accelerate marketing. They actually might be thinking about how to pull back on marketing, or how to cut marketing, or how to redirect funds for marketing, having much more financial discipline and rigor. And we actually think that's all part of the same story. And I'm gonna just demonstrate why. We actually, if you look at times past, when we go into recessions like this one that we're going to now, it's the winners, the subsequent winners are the ones that figure out how to harness their resources and redirect towards opportunities that'll help them accelerate out of the downtimes, gain market share, enhance their profitability or wallet share, whatever the case may be. And so it's what you do right now that makes the difference. That'll actually determine how you succeed or fail as a business coming out of the recession that we're in now. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'll go ahead and jump into it. Why are we talking about this? Well, the reason is because of what we call this data explosion that you might have witnessed. If you're seasoned like me, you notice that in the last 30 years, we have seen an absolute explosion of data available to marketers. I read a stat, and I don't even know if this has been verified, but it says something like 90% of all the data today that humanity has ever created actually has been created in just the last 2 years, right? With the effect of the digital economy that we're all living in, which is amazing. That's a veritable explosion. Now, all of that data can be used by marketers to better target and execute. But separating data that's valuable, that provides insights from raw data is, of course, the challenge. And that, of course, has given rise to this very powerful MarTech stack, the MarTech economy, that has today more than 9,000 tools available to marketers to either collect data or segment based on data or use data to better engage buyers, whether that's B2B or B2C. Those 9,000 tools have been, we spent the better part of the last 15 years figuring out how to integrate them and how to pass that data in order to better market. And that's what we call the activation stack, better ways to reach your buyers through channels, to collect data, to deliver content, et cetera. It's been a veritable spending spree. That space of the MarTech tools has grown by 6,500%. There was only 150 of them when I got started in MarTech way back in 2004, and now there's more than 9,000, okay? But if you take that and compare it to the investments made in what we call operational marketing, the systems that marketers use to actually run the business of marketing, it's pretty astounding, just the difference. Today, the vast majority of businesses run their marketing on spreadsheets, and maybe PowerPoints, and maybe Word documents, and maybe SharePoint files. But the amount of investment that's made in the MarTech stack, the activation stack, just totally dwarfs the investments made in operational marketing today. And that's where all the planning is done. That's where financial management done. That's where your work management is done. Those today are run on freeware effectively. And that has created a lot of challenges. It's created challenges for marketing executives and marketing teams that operate in what we call the fog of marketing, right? It's a state of dysfunction that haunts many, many businesses today. And what that is as soon as plans go into execution, the well thought out plans, suddenly visibility drops precipitously, right? Teams, systems, data, budgets, departments, campaigns, they're dispersed and siloed. They're documented in a variety of different of tools, spreadsheets, et cetera. Nobody has a singular view of what the marketing strategy is, how it's being executed, and how it's driving real value for the business, right? Execution becomes ad hoc and unaligned. Widely dispersed teams tend to drift from the original goals and pursue their own agendas, which of course makes reaching your strategic goals and objectives extremely difficult to do. That is the fog of marketing. And it really haunts most marketing departments today because they run the business of marketing on freeware. How was agility even possible in this state? Everybody talks about agility. Today, the name of the game is how can you redirect resources towards the ones that are going to drive the best growth in a kind of time of constraint. Everyone's talking about this notion of marketing agility, but the vast majority of marketing teams are not agile at all. Right? They can't react to market conditions. They can much less get ahead of changing market conditions and take advantage of those. Okay. One CMO that I spoke to recently described this as trying to turn a container ship by putting your hand in the water. That's the rudder. It's just really hard to change direction when the entire mechanism, the whole motion of marketing is scattered across hundreds or thousands of documents that most team members can't even find the most recent version of. In this state, many CMOs, many businesses have turned to marketing operations, right? The promise of marketing operations. Forrester says that 64% of marketing teams are planning to invest more into marketing operations than last year, and that's in this economy. But here's the catch. Most marketing operations teams and functions today are consumed with configuration of MarTech applications with low-level integration. Okay? Instead of giving the CMOs visibility into how the strategy is playing out through execution, they're instead focused on how to configure the marketing automation system, right? Or how to integrate data from your CDP into your CRM system, or how to build better segments, or how to collect data. All of those are essential to the running of marketing, but they don't give the CMO visibility into how strategy is being carried out today. And so marketing ops doesn't become a strategic resource available to the office of the CMO. Instead, they're managing down toward the tech stack instead of managing up. And that's a real challenge. Now, some organizations we've seen through our interactions with customers are recognizing this and starting to hire a new role onto the marketing team called the marketing chief of staff, or the chief of staff to the CMO. And the kind of the role of the marketing chief of staff is to serve as this intermediary, kind of connective tissue between marketing operations and the office of the CMO, and more specifically between marketing and the office of finance and the CFO. Okay, so we've seen a lot of these marketing chiefs of staff start to take on the role of directing strategy and reporting back to the office of the CMO on how strategy is being carried out. Many organizations are hiring this role. We've seen it at Pinterest, Wayfair, Deloitte, Capital One. You can find job postings for chief of staff role. And frankly, this is a role that just didn't exist 5 years ago. It wasn't found very common. What's really needed today is not necessarily more people in marketing ops, more MarTech tools, more data, but a new operating model. That's what we truly believe. We need an operating model that clears the fog so CMOs can get better, transparent, more up-to-date picture of their operations and how strategy is being carried out. That allows them to have a much higher degree of control over their marketing spend. It allows them to pivot faster, confidently answer questions from the C-suite about what type of return marketing is generating for the company, and ultimately allows them to make better, faster decisions than ever before. That's what's needed, a new marketing operating model. So what is a marketing operating model? You might be asking that, like, what is this operating model? Well, operating model is just a way of doing business. And there are many operating models today that govern how marketing is managed and executed. I could think of a couple. One example might be, say, inbound marketing, right? That's an operating model that came onto the scene some 15, 17 years ago from a company called HubSpot. And that operating model basically said that the business of interrupting buyers doesn't work. And the best way to attract buyers and sell to them is by publishing relevant content that can get found on the internet, that can pull people to your offering. Right? That was the inbound operating model or methodology. And that led to a rise in a whole bunch of discrete functions or processes like content marketing and search engine optimization, et cetera. Another operating model is customer experience management. Really, really important for brands. It basically said that the customer experience is the sum of every touch point a customer has with your business. And you need to think about it much more holistically than just how marketing engages a buyer, how salespeople sell to a buyer, et cetera. Right? Customer experience management is a whole discipline today. It's an industry. If you search for customer experience management, you'll come up with hundreds of search results. And a lot of those search results come from consultants that want to help you figure out your customer experience model. But that is an operating model that's greatly changed how companies go to business. And we think that one is needed for the operational side of marketing as well. Okay. Now we call this operating model marketing business acceleration. Okay. It's a model that helps CMOs make better decisions, measure everything, act with confidence, pivot quickly, redirect resources. It delivers greater visibility, velocity, and agility. In order to do that, like all these other operating models, it has to have certain pieces. Okay? It has to have, for example, a common taxonomy, a common plan and spend framework, a set of KPIs that measure value, and most importantly, a maturity model that organizations can move through in order to do things better, in order to optimize marketing, in order to, as we like to say, run marketing like a business, not like some function. So how does the marketing business acceleration model actually work? What are those levels of maturity and how would an organization move through them? Well, here to talk about that is my colleague, Bruce Bryan. He'll walk you through that.
Thanks, Jim. Sounds like magic, which is exciting because now we get to pull back the curtain and look behind the magic and talk about some of the structure and the framework that we've got to put in place to take the vision of making decisions with confidence. One of the things that I like to do at conferences, I'll often ask people when we first get started is who wants to be a data or insight driven agile marketer? Everybody raises their hand. That's the most simple thing you could ask a group of marketers. Everybody wants to be on that bandwagon. Well, this is the operating model, marketing business acceleration, that you need to make that happen. Now, what we've done is we've broken the business of marketing into these 4 domains around planning, budgeting, work and digital asset management, and performance management to kind of bring it all together in this iterative so that the performance management decisions and insights that we gather feed the planning, which feeds the budgeting and full range of financial management for marketing and into the execution side of the house. Now, we need to overlay that framework with the concepts of marketing business acceleration. So if I'm going to get to Agile, if I'm going to get to a data-driven Agile marketing operating environment, I need to start with visibility, because as we noted, we're in the fog of marketing for most organizations. So the first thing I would need to do before I can handle the complexities and the dynamics of the marketplace to be agile, I've got to be able to see what's going on. So the first layer, the first construct of this framework is visibility. The second one is velocity, and the third one is agility. But let's dive in now to the visibility piece, and we're going to use our planning function as the construct here. So what we're going to be looking to do with our customers is to identify the capabilities that would need to be enabled from the planning domain within visibility, and we're going to focus on visibility on the ideas of clarity and collaboration. And that is, can I see everything that's going on everywhere that I'm supposed to see? The capabilities that we're going to focus on with our customers to make sure that we deliver clarity from a planning perspective. And let's go forward now, and we take that next step, because once we can see and we can move that, to see what's going on with that container ship, we can start to move it. We can start to increase our velocity. Now, the way we're going to do that is we're going to focus again on two key components. We're going to focus on workflow, and we're going to focus on integration. So the latency in most processes sits in the approval queues and the work waiting to be done. So we want to reduce that time frame by introducing a set of workflow capabilities that enable things to get approved and move through those queues more quickly. The integration ensures that not only do things move from system to system correctly, they move accurately and they move efficiently. So data gets entered once and it gets propagated to whatever system it needs to be in, so that the people using that system always have up-to-date, accurate insight as to what they're supposed to be working on and what it's supposed to look like. From there, that sets us up for agility. So once I have that clarity, that collaboration, that workflow, and that integration, now I can start to focus on the integrity of the insights that I have and the proper segmentation, so that I'm always in a position to make good decisions. So now we're talking about getting to some of the more advanced concepts. We're taking that alignment within marketing to alignment external to marketing with calendar synchronizations, performance enhancements, CRM integrations, things like that, that really connect our world to the other parts of the organization. So these three layers, coupled with these four domains, put us in a position to actually start understanding the value that we can bring to the table. Now, we've got a couple of quotes here for you. The first one is from McKinsey & Company. Data-driven marketing, meaning pulling all of this alignment together, can deliver up to 3 to 5% of additional growth for the organizations that they surveyed, along with up to 10 to 20% improvements in productivity. This is fairly substantial improvements for most organizations, but we've seen the evidence when companies do this. We've seen numbers much bigger than these for companies that are coming from further back in terms of what they're able to accomplish when putting this type of operating system in place. Second quote is from Forrester. Now, Forrester is looking at the same thing. They're focusing on the value of alignment across the organization. And what they're saying is you can achieve up to 19% faster revenue growth. Now, before you call me out on the 3 to 5% on the previous slide and the 19% here, I wanted to keep the integrity of the quotes to match the people who sent them in. And the 19% says faster revenue growth. 19% faster revenue growth for a 20% growth company is an extra 4%, which is right in the middle of the 3 to 5%. So the numbers do mesh between the two companies. The 15% higher profitability is the same as the 10 to 20% productivity. It's right in the middle of that one as well. The other thing we got from Forrester, we have multiple flavors of this, is we've got some insights around how marketing budgets manifest themselves, how much of your revenue is contributed to marketing, and then how each of the components of the marketing budget typically break out for different types of programs, how the content versus activation balance looks. This version is for the large $2 billion and up organization, but we have it for other slices as well when we work with you individually. So we're going to take this information that we've got on how budgets break out and how benchmarking can help us, and we're going to start to deploy that. Let's go to the next. And what we're going to do is we're going to provide a maturity assessment, and we're going to map the maturity of the capabilities that we just talked about enabling across those 4 domains, across marketing business acceleration, and we're going to align those to a set of KPIs. Now there's 11 in total here because those program costs are typically going to be, for asset creation, they'll be split between your internal and your agency costs. And then at the bottom, your operational costs will break those out into the impacts on labor, services, and systems. So that gives us 7 productivity KPIs that we're going to focus on the left. And then we're going to focus on 4 growth KPIs on the right-hand side, primarily transaction size, how demand in your organization converts ultimately to revenue, whether it's through channels, retail, business to business, et cetera, how fast it moves, demand velocity, and demand volume, how much effort we're putting in to drive that growth. We take these KPIs and we align those capabilities to them. We look at those benchmarks, and we can typically come up with some pretty accurate guidance around the range of improvements that you could expect. And this is just an example that we actually did for one of our customers, where we looked at the operational cost improvements. We're estimating a 2.5 to 4% improvement, and these are the capabilities that they would be looking to enable to make that happen. And then we did the same capabilities aligned to the domains, focusing on what level of improvement we might be able to expect. Let's keep going. From there, if you want to go to a full-blown business case, we can take some budgetary constructs as input. We can align that to the expected improvements from the previous slide, and we can forecast what the situation will look like from a productivity improvement standpoint. From that standpoint, we then go to the next slide, and we can then translate the productivity into growth. So even though we're going to have some improvements that impact growth, that means we have a better growth model to begin with. Then we're going to take all the productivity improvements and we're going to translate those into growth as well. The last thing we want to do is talk about, how I could cut a head count or something like that. Most organizations, when they have the ability to translate productivity into growth, will take that chance. So we're building that into the model, and that sets us up for Frank's discussion of now, how do we go about bringing this to life for you?
Thanks, Bruce. So we spent a good part of 2022 coming up with a consistent global customer value journey for all of our customer base across the world. And we've taken the maturity model that was built and adopted that in sort of a sense of how do we create a customer success roadmap with our customers? How do we use the maturity model to drive the maturity and the best practices that we've collected over the years? And what does that look? And this is just a very high level snippet of that. So our most important component of coming on to a new account or an existing account is creating that system stability. Once there is stability and once you're getting the value out of the investment of Uptempo, then that's where we'll move into the marketing business acceleration review in the maturity model. So your customer success folks have been trained on how to assess that initial overview that Bruce talked about earlier. I'll talk a little bit about what that assessment contains, but what you could expect from your customer success interactions is really a cross between how do we look at the feature value of the solution? How do we ensure that we're instilling knowledge and overall, the ability to understand how you leverage a system? And then how do we look at the other side of things in terms of best practices and create that sort of combined roadmap between the two? So this is just a high level overview of what that life cycle looks like. So when we talk about critical success factors, this is the other side of the coin in terms of the assessment. So how we brought this together is in these 5 different segments. So under these 5 different segments are 4 specific questions that we'll go through and ask, and that will land us in a very, very specific pegging of the maturity model. So from left to right, we've got what goals. So what do you want to achieve out of the implementation and the investment of Uptempo? What's the value? So how is this going to impact your business overall? The people portion is very interesting. We talked to a major Canadian airline here in Toronto yesterday, and a lot of the goals and a lot of the critical success factor of leveraging an Uptempo is really focused on the people side. So around employee satisfaction, around the ability to do my job better, and the ability to come off of spreadsheets and multiple siloed technologies and use just one system to be able to do my job, basically. And that leads to really the next piece around process. So in a lot of these cases, as you're coming off of these silos, what does that new process look like? So we spend a lot of time in customer success helping you understand how do you create that one specific process that will be adopted by your users throughout the organization. And then the last piece, obviously, is adoption. So adoption can be, an uphill challenge as you're coming out of implementation, but this is a continuous cycle that we go through in customer success, and it's really truly understanding as you go through introducing new users, new folks to the marketing operations community. How do you continue to instill subject matter expertise, but really how do you continue to mature in that specific segment? So those are the 5 critical success factors that we've built out, and this is how we'll build out that initial discussion with you in terms of where you rank, or where you think you rank in each one of these. So our secret sauce, what I like to call it, is really once we've been able to collectively come together and peg you in a certain maturity, so between visibility, velocity, and agility, it's really up to the customer success manager and yourself to really take advantage of the best practices that we've put together. So when we came together as 3 organizations just over 12 months ago, we really had a lot of rich content around how to drive maturity when it comes to marketing operations. So what we've done is collected those and built them into how do we leverage and help you mature in each one of these areas. So when we go back to the critical success factors, if there's low maturity in one of these areas, we will have specific discussions with you around how can you improve. Now, these are meant to be best practices. We're not consultants, so we're not marketing consultants from that perspective, but we will be able to help in terms of pointing you in the right direction. So the discussions or the interactions you can expect with your customer success manager would be a cross between improve my overall marketing out of the solution, but you're also getting as much as you can out of our relationship through the best practices that we've put together here. The change management approach in customer success. So a lot of our customers ask us, what do your other customers do? So what we've done is created, again, a best practice process or a roadmap as you're coming out of implementation or as you're looking to put in other integrations or other investments within Uptempo. We continuously go through the change management process. And that is really after introduction of the platform, how can we advise you in the change management assessment? So a lot of the questions that I get is, how is the marketer's job going to change from moving from the spreadsheet to the actual platform itself? Help us understand those two different dimensions. And I think that's very important for marketers to understand and adopt this new solution coming in, but really understand what the true value is overall. So we do things like knowledge transfer, provide the facilitation of the training curriculum and the facilitation guide. But I think the most important thing that we do after these components is what we call our listening tour, which is a cross between the concierge training support services, but bringing in our product folks of what is working well with the product and how could we improve it. In a lot of cases, a lot of the innovation that we introduce in future roadmap is really from our user community. So this is really important for us to continue to do. So what does this look like? So at the end of the day, once the assessment's completed for marketing business acceleration, you've had a few discussions with your customer success manager. We come together and build out a 6-month or a 12-month roadmap. And in this example, we're building out a fairly new customer who wants to do things like the change management approach. How do I introduce this platform into my marketing operations community? What are the company goals that I should be considering as I do that? How do I accelerate the MarTech stack, or how I've implemented this? How do I accelerate that when it comes to gaining more out of my investment? And really, the speed to value is the last piece. There is really understanding, what are the tactics that you've seen used before that helps me get my marketers up to speed a lot faster than what we had anticipated through our RFP process or our implementation plan. So again, a lot of best practices that we'll share with you, a lot of discussions, a lot of the interactions with your customer success manager will be across between, but expect to see a lot more around how do we help you grow as an organization and mature from a marketing operations side.
Sorry, Bruce, I thought you were doing this one, Frank, but I'll talk to it. That's fine. Look, I mean, bottom line here is obviously Frank and Bruce have walked through a lot of details with you, right? We have the notion of an operating model. We think the time is now to transform your operational marketing side. The reasons for doing that is to unlock greater value. That value is measured in terms of visibility, velocity, and agility. And Frank has re-engineered the customer success process to deliver that value through a set of best practices. Right? So all this comes together. What we're encouraging our customers to do today is to get started. And get started now and don't wait. A lot of this can seem like, it's a big project. Maybe we can put that off for a year, but I would encourage you, given everything that's happening in the market, is to start the journey today and to realize the level of kind of fiscal discipline and plan spend visibility that's required of marketers. How do you get started? It's pretty straightforward. Everyone has a customer success manager assigned to them as a customer. Reach out to the customer success manager. We have a complimentary business value assessment we are happy to do with you. That will point the direction towards Uptempo.io, and we'll have someone to get back to you right away. But start the journey today to realize that value. And then finally, before we go to Q&A, I would also encourage all customers on this to connect with us, right? Of course, that relationship with the customer success manager and your account manager, those are treasured relationships. They're critical to driving your strategy and getting more value from Uptempo's offerings. But we offer quite a bit outside of the product and our services. And a couple examples of that is, first of all, we have just recently launched a customer community that's oriented towards marketing operations, strategic marketing operations folks. And today there are people in there that are exchanging best practices, they're networking, they're getting up to date on what our product insights, our product plans are. There's a lot happening in the community. I would encourage you to visit us at uptempo.io/community and sign up and join that. And even better than the digital interactions, of course, is the actual in-person interactions. And they're back. We will be out on the road at a number of events over the coming year. Here's 4 that are happening coming up in spring. If you'll be at the B2B Marketing Exchange, or this Engage MarTech event, or the Reuters event that's happening, or Gartner Marketing Symposium, those are all places where we plan to be in force, and I'd love to meet you in person at any one of those. So please reach out and connect and join that community. So with that being said, let's turn over to see if there are questions from the audience. It's like there are a number that are put into the Q&A. If you have a question on anything we've covered, I would encourage you to use the Q&A feature in Zoom, and we'll go ahead and address that. The first question we got is, how do we integrate this new operating model into existing processes? Is it a total overhaul? I'm going to actually...
Jim, I can take that one.
Yeah, turn it over to Bruce to answer the question.
Yeah, sure. So could it end up being a total overhaul? It could, but it's been designed so that you can crawl, walk, run as you need. So as Frank noted, it starts with a fairly non-invasive assessment that a couple of people could participate in to set lay the foundation and get a baseline for you, and then an assessment of what your priorities are and what direction you want to go. And that's how we can really layer this in. You may adopt all of it, you may adopt pieces of it. It's really very flexible in terms of how you go about moving in this direction.
And I would just add to that. I think Bruce said the initial assessment would take less than an hour.
Yeah.
To through what we've seen. So it's very straightforward to get through. Sorry, Jim.
Good. From the organization should actually be involved in this assessment. Who do we need to speak to assess?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it would be great to have a cross between executive leadership or sponsorship on the business side and marketing, and then obviously the technology side as well. I think it's equally important to have those two.
Okay, very good. Will the CSMs be proactively reaching out to customers to start this journey, start the evaluation? Is that?
Yes. So we just recently completed our first phase of certification. So our CSMs have gone through the initial training of it. So we will proactively start having discussions with you. We are looking to have our initial assessments completed over the next couple of weeks. So I encourage you to please reach out to your CSM in that discussion, and let's get started on the assessment piece.
Awesome. Last question in here. There was a question about slides being sent out. Yes, we will send out the slides and recording this to all attendees. Last question I think is worth addressing here is what materials do we have that someone that's on the webinar or a customer can use to communicate this idea of the evaluation to decision makers? Maybe that's a good one, Frank, for you. We have a lot of the best practices material that's available right now.
There is. Yeah, absolutely there is. So we've got a bit of an intro deck that we can walk you through in one of our interactions or one of our scheduled meetings. And if we need to schedule something sooner, absolutely just reach out to your customer success manager, or reach out directly to me, or reach out in the email that Jim talked about earlier. So we've got a bit of an intro that will help you have the discussion with your CMO or your sponsor or executive in your organization for sure.
I said that was the last one, but I lied. There's one more here that I think is a good one. How do you integrate this operating model into one platform? Are your solutions integrated into one platform? Maybe Bruce, you can take that.
Yeah, sure. So most of our solutions of the 3 cover at least 3 of the domains already. Some cover 4. However, we are in fact integrating all of the solutions into one platform, and that'll be obviously happening over the coming months and years to bring every aspect of what you've been experiencing into one place. The framework that Frank and I laid out for assessing maturity and taking that journey does understand which product you're on, and it is capable of adapting itself to that, and it will continue to be updated on our end as the integrated platform rolls out. And so that is, you're absolutely correct. That's the direction that we're heading, but there's no reason not to get started now because there's so much in the existing platforms that you can take advantage of.
Yep.
Okay, very good. I think, oh, wait, there's one more. Do I have to be using a product for a minimum number of months to qualify for an assessment? Do I have to be using the product? So look, I hand it off to Frank, but I think it's really important to make this point that an operating model is not software, right? The operating model provides context for how you might use our platform or a variety of platforms, right? It actually governs the maturity of your internal operations, your systems, the processes, et cetera, and how you can measure the business value of that maturity as well. So it's really important to kind of make sure there's a clear distinction between the model itself and any software platform. But I'll go ahead and I'll hand off maybe to Frank.
Jim, we're actually using the same model with prospects. So certainly companies, before they even engage with our offerings, are beginning to go down this road and start to look at things this way. The only caveat I would put, and maybe Frank can add some flavor to that, is you might be a little bit underwater during the throes of the implementation itself. So maybe that's the only time I wouldn't do it. But even as you get to the end user already ripe, there's no waiting period, if you will. It's more of a, if you've already ripped open ripped the cover off the engine and you're tweaking with things, you might want to get that settled and then adopt. But go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, Bruce, I would agree. I think if you're new to Uptempo, somewhere between the end of your implementation and training occurring, that's a nice time to start talking about change management, because you've figured out at that point how your rollout's going to look like. Is it more in waves? Is it one big bang theory? But really, I would say that the sooner you engage us, there really is no period of time of being an Uptempo customer. We've got these best practices in place. Please take advantage of them. So I think it all starts back to the assessment.
It's great. Well said. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Bruce. Good answer and a good presentation. I enjoyed doing this with you. Again, to you customers who have joined today, we do appreciate the time. We will be sending this out with the recording and the slides. And I encourage you to come back and visit us early and often at uptempo.io. We have a number of events that are coming up and webinars over the coming months, and I'd love to see more of you on them. But thank you again for joining us today, and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.